My name is Courtney Ward, and this is my presentation on Should Philosophers Oversee Society? Plato argued that philosophers should oversee society. Are you wondering what is a philosophy king? Plato defined a philosopher as a wisdom lover, and a philosopher king is a ruler who has a love of knowledge, intelligence, reliability, and a willingness to live a simple life. He also said that for a community to ever come into being, philosophers must become kings, or for the current kings, they must genuinely and adequately philosophize. One of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors, according to Plato. He wrote a dialogue called The Republic, and what it was is sort of a book that talked about the justice of the city and the state and of the man. And in this book, he argued that only a philosopher is able to judge which type of ruler is best because only he can see the form of good. And this was also the idea that would allow a philosopher in training to actually become a philosopher king. So I'm going to focus on three main points of Plato's argument. The first was that he said those who are not philosophers only wanted to rule for power or wealth and greed, and that they didn't even lack the qualifications needed to do so, and they didn't even have the willingness to learn how to properly rule. Secondly, he attacks the sophists, who he called like clever sailors who just want to gain power by persuasion, and they were the politicians of the Athenian democracy who used rhetoric to win popular support as opposed to having skill or wisdom like the philosophers. So they were pretty much crooked. He said they're similar to the celebrities, these days, who do things just for fame and popularity and who have no true knowledge or skill. And thirdly, for Plato, only the philosopher and the navigator has the understanding and expertise required to rule. But according to the sophists, they're misunderstood because their love of wisdom is foreign to them and is seen as a threat to hold on to their power. This was a quote I found that I felt really helped his argument. They don't know that for the true pilot, it is necessary to pay careful attention to years, seasons, heaven, stars, winds, and everything that's proper to the art. If he is really going to be skilled at ruling a ship, don't you believe that the true pilot will really be called a stargazer, a praetor, and useless to them by those who sail on ships run like this? In conclusion, I can definitely see where Plato was coming from, because coming from a philosopher, I can see why he would want philosophers to rule, just like someone in the military would want someone militant to rule, and someone deeply religious would want someone religious to rule. But I feel like it takes a little bit more than that. The idea was for philosopher kings to rule because they have been trained to love knowledge, justice, and virtue, and those are all necessary to be a ruler, but it does take a little bit more. What if the philosopher was corrupt? And I mean, what if we don't agree with all of the philosophers' views? How or why should they force them on us when philosophical thoughts should be distinct and personal? Power tends to corrupt a lot of times, and I think we see that in the world today especially. And I think anyone who is going to lead must do so with rotation, accountability, and a system. And that's it. Thank you.